Hey there folks, and welcome to our engine pre-start / inspection. So you'll need to complete these steps before you are given fuel and the go ahead to run the engine. So this presentation is going to include the air filter inspection, the spark plug, the engine oil, and a kind of overall look at the controls of the engine and the procedures that you need to observe when starting this. The other thing I want to look at is the upgrade series. It has a little bit different control bracket. We'll take a minute and examine exactly how that works. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first things that we want to take a look at are the control bracketry. We'll make sure that the choke is able to easily slide in and out. We want to make sure that the governor is able to move easily when you put some pressure on it down here. There shouldn't be any binding of any sort on anything as far as that's concerned. We want to make sure the fuel line is correctly attached to the fuel tank. I am not at all worried about these hose clamps or anything like that. We want to make sure that the fuel is turned on. So in this case, the fuel is on, even though the X on the fuel valve is facing up. It's for some reason manufactured backwards. The newer engines actually have a label that identifies that for you. We want to also make sure that you have a speed control spring attached down here on the governor, preferably on the first hole. We want to make sure on this end that you have the spark plug wire correctly attached and it's not damaged or anything like that. And lastly, on this end, we want to make sure you have a dipstick and that part's not missing, and also that you have a wooden tote. So now that that is indeed finished up, you also can see the starter is functional. We're going to go ahead and unscrew the dipstick, and on the dipstick is the safe operating range. So we don't want the oil over this level, and we don't want the oil under that level. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to fill the engine with oil until it gets to the bottom of the threads in that hole. So the easiest way to fill it is to grab yourself a funnel. Over by the garage door there is a tote of them, probably 5 or 6. Make sure the inside's wiped out good, and these blue ones fit in quite nicely. These engines hold about 20 ounces of oil, so you're going to get our fine recycled oil jug, and you're going to turn the jug like this, okay, so that the pour hole is facing up, and then you can very, very, very precisely modulate the amount of oil that you're going to pour into the engine. So you want to frequently check to make sure that you're not overfilling. Because once you get too much oil in here, it's really hard to get it out, especially if the funnel is full. So all you got to do is put a rag underneath the funnel, pull the funnel out, and I can very easily, very clearly see already that I have slightly overfilled this motor. It'll be okay, but when we check it on the dipstick without threading it in, you can see how high that is. So I'm actually going to dump a little bit of oil out of this engine just so we don't make quite so much of a mess. So pretty simple. I just pick up the engine, bring it over, give it a good tip, and don't lollygag with it, otherwise it kind of tends to whiz all over the place. So I can see we're below the threads. We may have to add just a little bit more oil, but we'll check it on the dipstick first. And at this point, we can go ahead and thread this in. Just make sure it's tight. We can move on to the air filter. So the air filter is pretty self-explanatory. You just push down with your 2 thumbs on this tab, and you pull out the element. And you can hold it up to the light. We want to make sure it's not saturated with any oil. If yours is missing, that is okay. These all end up getting crushed, destroyed, soaked in oil, and they're like $7 each to replace. Basically, it's just a waste of money for how we use these engines here, because we don't run them outside in the dust, the dirt, the sand, and the sticks and the stones. So anyway, your your air filter in this case looks pretty dang good. So go ahead and install that. Install it like such. You really cannot put it in the wrong way. And then go ahead and hinge the cover on the bottom. It is directional, and then you should be able to flip it closed. For the spark plug, kind of an optional check. You don't have to pull yours out. I just want to see what mine looks like. And looks pretty good. I'm just gonna simply check the gap real quick on it. It looks like we're right smack on 30 thousandths. All right, so that's good. Go ahead and wing it back in. So now that you have completed all of your preliminary inspection items, make sure that you get a signature on that sheet for being able to run. We're gonna go ahead and run them in the back of that old Chevy truck. Kind of gonna have to make a line as far as that's concerned, because we're gonna run one at a time so we can make sure that if it's not quite right, I can give you an idea of what you need to do as you take this apart, because you're the mechanic and you're gonna be repairing this engine, and we want it to run better than it did when you started it at the beginning of this year. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the basic starting procedure for this style of engine. The dipstick style is pretty self-explanatory. We still talk about the safe operating range, so this one doesn't really have the nice dipstick that some of the newer ones do, but that's kind of aside from the point. I'll check your oil level and all that stuff anyway. So let's go ahead and fire this up. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take the fuel cap off. I'm gonna grab this safety fuel can. You're gonna push down and pull back. That's gonna open the lid. And we're gonna put about 3 ounces of fuel in it. Basically, we want enough fuel that it covers this bottom portion here of the fuel tank, okay? Because that's where the fuel pickup and the fuel filter is. So we'll slosh some fuel in it and go from there. Just make sure the bottom of the tank is coated. So next what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn the control on. We're gonna turn the fuel on. We're gonna apply the choke, and this engine, you don't have to do anything to it to keep it running. The other style, you actually do have to hold the throttle on, because this is a pressure washer engine, not a dead man lawnmower style. So we'll give it one pull. Hopefully she starts. If you're using the upgrade style, the way the throttle works, this is idle, this is off, so just letting go of it shuts the engine off. There's a spring behind this bolt, and you can see where a cable clips in and clips in to make this all work. So as you increase, it puts tension on this spring. This is not the correct spring, unfortunately, for this engine, so this one's probably not gonna run real well. So off, on, and then full throttle, and then the extra pullback, you can see kind of something happening behind there. The all the way pull back is the choke. So once the engine starts, you back off a little bit, and then it's able to run. To shut the engine off, you just let go. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna empty out the oil and the gas. So I'm gonna just do the gasoline first. We're gonna open, and we're gonna put the funnel in this like that, okay? And what we should be able to do then, and be careful, the engine is extremely hot, so I grab it kind of by this plastic fan shroud up here in the front. But all we're gonna do is we're gonna tip the motor kind of on its back a little bit, but we're just gonna pour that gas out real quick, real easy. Doesn't take but 3 seconds. Next is the oil. So we're gonna go ahead, remove the dipstick, put it someplace safe. And my recommendation, obviously, is doing this on the floor. But I put my elbows on my knees and then kind of give it a pour. And you can just kind of lean back onto your heels, and you're not having to stand here for 20 minutes waiting for the oil to drain out, holding the full weight of this motor. Just kind of do your best to aim, get it into the can. If you over tip it, this right here is over tipping it. You can see how the oil flow has stopped. And then when it comes back, it just makes a glorified mess. That's your responsibility to clean that mess up, you know. This can go back in the big red can because it's still good. It's not 100% saturated with oil or anything like that. Well, there you got it, folks. That is the complete start and run exercise. Please make sure you follow along with those procedures, because that is your lab participation, employability / completion grade as far as that's concerned. Definitely make sure you get as much oil as humanly possible out of this engine, because any oil that you leave in it when you take this thing apart is going to end up on your table in the classroom, and you're going to have to clean it up off the table instead of being able to just simply pour it out of the engine. That being said, there's always going to be a little bit left in this motor. We just kind of try to contain the mess as best we can. So with that being said, good luck. Make sure you grab a sheet. Thanks for watching.